All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we talked about what a nerve is, and we said a nerve is this physical thing, like a wire, that transmits information. And then, we talked about what type of information. So what type of information can you transfer? And we said, there's this, you can sense things, so we call that a sensory information, and we can move things, a motor information. And then we talked about who we can send that information to. We said we can send it to skin, joints, skeletal muscle, or bones, and that family is called the somatic family. Or we can send it to organs, smooth muscle, and glands, and that would be a visceral family. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to really focus on just one of those functions. We're going to specifically focus on the visceromotor function, the visceromotor function. And that's because, not to play favorites or anything, but this is arguably the most important function that a nerve does, right? Because if you think about it, what does visceral mean again? It's organs, smooth muscle, and glands. And really, I think the most important of these is organs, right? So you are moving your organs. You're making your heart rate go up and down. You're controlling your stomach and how it operates. And that's where a lot of medicine really deals with, right? If something goes wrong in your body, we really want to understand the visceromotor function so well, because we're gonna maybe design drugs that speed up or slow down your heart rate or affect your stomach and a variety of organs. So again, they're all important, but this one is so important that we give it a special name in medicine. We call it the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system. All right. So if you ever see this fancy phrase autonomic nervous system, it is the exact same thing as visceral motor. These are completely equivalent. We like to create more fancy terms sometimes, unfortunately. And it's also sometimes called ANS, right? Autonomic nervous system. So these are all interchangeable. All right. So what's the best way to think about visceral motor, right? What's the best way to think about it in your mind? And let's subdivide this, and there's again sort of two ways to think about this. So what I'm about to do is going to seem slightly bizarre, but I think the bizarreness of what I'm about to do will hopefully actually make it a little bit memorable. So the first way to think about it is, imagine there's a snake right behind you. All right, so, oh God, I'm already getting chills just looking at my so artistically well-drawn snake, right? So what happens if there's a snake behind you, right? You are going to run for your life, okay? So what specifically is going to happen to your organs? Let's think about it. Let's just think about it one at a time. What would logically make sense? If there's a snake behind me, what would happen to my heart, right? Well, my heart rate is going to shoot up. My heart is going to move faster. There's going to be a visceral motor input sent from my brain to my heart through this nerve, saying, heart, you need to move much faster because we need more blood in our bodies so that the blood can reach more tissues and we can run much faster. All right. What about our eyes? And our eyes, actually, within our eyes, we have our pupils, and our pupils, believe it or not, can actually increase or decrease in size. So that's something kind of cool that I didn't really realize until I started learning about this. So what would you want, right? If there's a snake behind you, you would want to be able to see very clearly, right? So you don't bump into anything accidentally because you're trying to run away from a snake. So actually, the size of your pupils would increase, okay? Or your pupils would dilate. Sometimes people use this word, pupillary dilation, sort of a fancy way of saying your eyes get bigger, so you want to see, right? So far the trend seems to be that everything is going up. But what about in this situation, right? What about your stomach? So here's your stomach, and then this becomes your small intestine and your large intestine. So what would happen to your intestines, right? Your stomach and your intestines. And actually, it goes down, okay? And the reason I'm even hesitating to talk right now is because this used to confuse me. I used to think, wait a minute. Wouldn't you want your stomach to digest food so that you have more energy so you can run away from the snake? That's kind of how I used to think about it. But actually, that's not how our body works. If there's a snake behind me, we already have food that's pre-digested. It's already broken down and it's ready to go. So our body can use that when we are running away from the snake. So actually, the whole process of digestion is not a priority when there is a snake behind you. So your body will send a signal to your stomach saying, stomach, slow down, okay? We don't need you to use up our energy. And the reason, we don't want to speed it up or just even keep it normal. The reason we actually slow it down is because we need all the energy we can for our heart and our eyes and a variety of other organs, right? So that's why we not only do we just not even bother, we actually slow it down. We say, really minimize the digestion process because we need all the energy we can to run away from the snake for our heart, our eyes, and other things. All right, so that's sort of the first category. The second category to think about is what if it's a very opposite situation, right? So I'm drawing a beach chair. So here's my chair, and I am on vacation. All right, I'm chilling on my beach chair, and I have a sombrero because I'm on vacation and I'm just very relaxed. So I'm on vacation. So what would happen if you are on vacation? Okay, what would happen to your organs? So let's think about these exact organs. So what would happen to your heart? Okay, you're very relaxed. You don't need blood. I mean, you obviously need blood to tissues in your body, but it's not a priority right now. You don't need a lot of blood, right? Because you're not trying to use a lot of energy. So your heart rate would be decreased when you are relaxed and you are on vacation, right? Hopefully this should be a relaxing vacation. Sometimes we end up in stressful vacations, which is not fun. All right, what would happen to your pupils, right? Your eyes. So again, you might think, I'm on vacation, I'm relaxed. It would be nice to obviously see as much as I can. And you're right, it would be nice to see as much as I can, but again, it's not a priority, right? You don't need to really see that well. So actually, your pupils the size would go down. So this would shrink, and that we call, you can also, people will say constriction, pupillary constriction, okay? All right, now what about your stomach, right? Now, you're relaxed at the current moment. So if you're relaxed, this is a pretty good time to focus on your digestion, right? Because when you eat and you want to break down your food, if you increase that activity, you can extract more nutrients. And since running away from a snake is not a priority right now, this takes priority. You can actually tell your stomach, now is a really good time to up your game and really extract every nutrient possible from the food I'm giving you. Okay, so this would actually sort of go up. All right, so now that we hopefully sort of conceptually understand what's going on, let's put the fancy terminology in so that you're not saying running from a snake in vacation. So let's go here again, right? So when you're running away from a snake, the fancy terminology to describe this, it's called fight or flight. Fight or flight. All right? And it's exactly the same idea. When you have to fight someone or you're in flight, for example, from a snake, this is what would happen to your body. All of this over here, okay? All of this right here would happen to your organs. And an even more fancy term that's used is called sympathetic. This is your sympathetic nervous system in action, all right? And what about this side over here? What's happening when you're relaxing on your vacation? We call this, the terminology used is rest and digest, okay? So it's implying you're resting. And look, you're digesting, right? So that even gives you a clue as to what organs are in action. And the really fancy terminology is called parasympathetic. Parasympathetic nervous system. So again, these are sort of interchangeable, rest and digest or parasympathetic. And these terms, sympathetic and parasympathetic, used to confuse me. I used to think this had something to do with sympathy and emotions, oh, I'm really sympathetic for what you're going through. But it has absolutely nothing to do with that, okay? So these are just, unfortunately, terms that you have to kind of memorize. But hopefully, conceptually, they make sense.